Well, first of all, something about three great uncles of my mother's maternal ancestral family who served overseas in World War One. The family, which was that of Swenson, was an original farming family. They were then living at Ngāwaka, just north of Taihape. And the family actually consisted of 11 children, and the parents were Martin Swenson, born in Sweden, and his wife Anne, née Corkill, whose parents actually came from the Isle of Man. The three eldest sons, Matthew, known as Mart, John Cornelius, known as Jack, and Edgar Harold James, known as Ned, all served in the First World War. The eldest, Matthew Swenson, or Uncle Mart as we knew him, he served in France. I have an embroidered postcard dated March 17th, 1918, which was sent to his father, and it reads, "My dear Dad, I am writing you a long letter soon, but this will let you see that I am still quite well and not forgotten about you. I hope you are well and happy and not worrying about us. Well, you will see by my address that I am at last in France. It is very interesting here. I have not been up the lines yet." He is referring to the battle lines. "I had a letter from Ned," that's his brother today, "and he is in Sling Camp. He is very well. I hope you are all doing well. Au revoir, with best love from your loving son, Mart." Now, Mart came home to New Zealand. He married but had no children, and he and his wife, Millicent, eventually settled at Burbank House, which is just off the square in Palmerston North. I visited them there while doing my own military training at Linton Military Camp in 1956. Anyway, Uncle Mart died in 1965. The third son, Edgar Harold James, was known as Ned. He also served overseas and was a returned man. He never married and lived apart from the family in Christchurch and died in 1970. And that is Ned with his parents. The second son, John Cornelius Swenson, was known as Jack. All records refer to him as Corporal John Cornelius Swenson, registration 23/2097 E Company, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Rifle Brigade. He was killed at Passchendale Ridge on the 12th of October 1917 in Belgium. On the 4th of October 17, the New Zealand Division was ordered into battle to attack the Gravenstoffel Spur, part of the Passchendale Ridge. The attack was successful, but with a huge cost. And then on the 12th of October, the division launched an attack to capture the village of Passchendale. In 1917, it was actually a deserted ruin. It was very wet, mud everywhere, and which impeded progress, and the enemy positions were almost invisible. It is written that there was a cost of 640 dead and 2,100 wounded, with hundreds more missing. This is commemorated on the panel New Zealand apse of the Tyne Cott Memorial at Passchendale. He was awarded the British War Medal and the Victory Medal in 1923, and they were signed for by his father at Taihape. And that is John Cornelius Swenson, farewelled by his mother.
So they've gone into a photographer's studio.
I would say so.
Had a special
Yeah, I would say so.
taken. Yes.
These items here are postcards, which this one here is Jack Swenson's unit, and it was taken on the summit of the Rimatuckers near Wellington before they went overseas. This one is again whilst he was in camp, and he is on this end of the photograph group.
So they got quite cheerful at that stage. So
Yeah, at that stage, yes. This item is the memory card for him after he was killed.
yes. With the black border, that's
Yes.
very Victorian.
Yes, yes. And the details inside and a memorial verse. And this is, of course, his photograph and the newspaper official notices. This item was passed to the family some time later, and it's the memorial or death certificate memorial sheet for John Cornelius Swenson. Now, I also want to mention that a distant maternal relative of my father, one Laurie Salter Williams, registration 25765, also 2nd Battalion, 3rd Rifle Brigade, was killed in action on the 12th of October 1917 at Passchendale. He was awarded the DCM, the Distinguished Conduct Medal, and he was the son of Thomas Robert Williams of Russell, Bay of Islands. Thus, I had two ancestral relatives who died in World War I on the same day, in the same place, from two sides of the family.
Passchendale was such a terrible
It
disaster.
certainly was.
Yes.
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 Yes. So that's a summary of family members who served in World War I, and there you
Can I
have it.
just ask you, Des,
Yes.
how did you, were these stories told in the family?
My mother was one of those people who retained photographs, documents, papers and what have you, and she, in later years, she passed them on to me, and of course I've done a lot of historical research and genealogical research and so on, and when I looked at all of these I realised what the background to the whole thing was, and I was able to search further and elaborate on the whole thing.
Yes, somebody always seems to be appointed the family historian, don't they? Yes.
Yes.
But do you remember your uncles ever talking about the war?
One of them particularly, Uncle Mart, or Great Uncle Mart, who was in Palmerston North. When I did my own military training at Linton near Palmerston North, I visited him there, and he discussed things and one thing and another. He didn't elaborate very much. But at that time he showed me some items that were either medals, documents, whatever they were, and unfortunately over the years I have no idea what happened to them. I've tried to trace them, but no descendants have any knowledge at all.
Well, thank you very much, Des. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Not really. I think that pretty well summarises the situation, and thank you for having me.
No, thank